Ever been driving down the highway, minding your own business, when suddenly you find yourself behind a truck so expensive it makes you question your entire financial life? Not just a nice truck, a massive, gleaming machine with chrome everywhere, luxury leather seats, and a presence that practically screams money. And as you sit there staring at it, one question keeps replaying in your mind. How is that person affording this? Because here's the part no one really talks about. There's a very real chance they're not making more money than you. In fact, they might even be earning less. So what's really going on here? How are everyday people driving around in vehicles that cost $60,000, $70,000, even $90,000, while at the same time complaining about rising grocery bills and living expenses? This isn't luck, it's not hidden wealth, and it's definitely not some secret financial hack. It's a system, a carefully designed system that makes something extremely expensive feel completely normal, and once you see how it works, you'll never look at car payments the same way again. The reality is, car payments today have quietly crossed into territory that would have sounded absolutely insane just a decade ago. We're not talking about luxury buyers or rare sports cars. We're talking about average people buying average vehicles, where the typical new car payment is now over $700 a month. And for trucks and SUVs, which dominate the roads today, those numbers easily climb to $900, $1,000, or even $1,200 every single month, locked in for 6, 7, sometimes even 8 years, which means by the time it's all said and done, many people end up paying over $80,000 or more for a vehicle that starts losing value the moment they drive it off the lot. Naturally, the first thought most people have is that incomes must have increased enough to support these payments, but that's simply not the case. Wages have gone up slightly, sure, but nowhere near enough to justify this kind of spending. So if people aren't earning significantly more, then how are they doing it? The answer lies in how car buying itself has been transformed over time, starting with one of the biggest changes: loan terms. There was a time when car loans were short, usually 3 years, maybe 4 if you stretched it, but today those timelines have nearly doubled, with 6-year loans being standard, 7-year loans becoming common, and some lenders even pushing 8 or 10-year terms. And on the surface, this feels like a win because stretching the loan lowers the monthly payment, turning what would have been a $1,500 monthly expense into something like $900, which suddenly feels manageable. And that's exactly where the trap begins. Because instead of asking, how much does this car actually cost me, most people only ask, can I afford this monthly payment? And by focusing on that single number, they end up committing to years of extra payments, paying thousands more in interest, and staying locked into a depreciating asset long after its value has dropped significantly, often leading to negative equity where they owe more than the car is worth, effectively trapping them financially. And just when it seems like the deal couldn't get more appealing, along comes the marketing magic of 0% financing, something that sounds almost too good to be true. And in many ways, it is. Because while it's advertised as free money, the reality is that the cost is already built into the price of the vehicle, meaning you're either paying full price with no interest or getting a discounted price with interest, but never both. And to make matters even more selective, most people don't even qualify for these deals due to strict credit requirements, making it more of a psychological hook than a genuine financial advantage. But the most dangerous part of this entire system is what's known as the trade-in cycle, a process that quietly pulls people deeper into debt over time. It usually starts when someone buys a car with a long loan, drives it for a few years, and then decides they want something newer or better. But since they still owe money on the original loan, often more than the car is worth, they can't just sell it and walk away. So instead, they trade it in, and the dealership rolls the remaining balance into a new loan for a new car, which means they're now paying for a vehicle they no longer own while also taking on a bigger loan for another one. And this cycle can repeat again and again, causing their debt to grow even as they continue making payments, creating a situation where they're essentially running in place financially, like a treadmill that keeps speeding up the longer they stay on it. What makes all of this even more powerful is that it's not just about numbers. It's about psychology, because over time, these extreme car payments have been normalized to the point where they no longer seem shocking, and people who would never consider spending $1,200 a month on clothes, food, or entertainment somehow feel comfortable committing that amount to a car, largely because vehicles are no longer marketed as simple tools for transportation, but as symbols of identity, success, and personal achievement. And once that emotional connection is established, the financial logic takes a back seat, making it easier to justify decisions that might otherwise feel unreasonable. So how do people actually manage to keep up with these payments month after month? The answer is often uncomfortable, because many people end up restructuring their entire lives around their car, making sacrifices in other areas just to maintain that one expense. They move into smaller or cheaper living spaces, delay major life decisions, cut back on food and leisure, skip vacations, and in many cases take on additional work just to cover the cost of their vehicle, while others rely on credit cards to handle fuel, insurance, and maintenance expenses, effectively stacking one form of debt on top of another, which can quickly spiral out of control. In more extreme situations, people dip into retirement savings, take out personal loans, or even borrow against their homes to afford their car, which completely flips the basic principle of wealth building on its head by using an appreciating asset to fund a depreciating one. And when you step back and look at the full financial picture, the numbers become even more shocking. Imagine buying a $55,000 truck with a monthly payment of $800 over 7 years. That alone adds up to around $67,000. But when you include insurance at roughly $250 per month, fuel costs of about $350 per month, and maintenance and repairs that can easily exceed $15,000 over that time, the total cost climbs to well over $130,000. And after all those years of payments, the vehicle itself might only be worth $15,000, meaning the majority of that money has effectively disappeared. What makes this even more significant is the opportunity cost. Because if that same $800 per month had been invested instead, even at a modest return, it could grow into tens of thousands of dollars over time, meaning the true cost of that car isn't just what was spent, but also what was lost in potential growth. Yet despite all of this, once people commit to these payments, they often become emotionally attached to their decision, viewing the car as a reflection of their identity and success, which makes it incredibly difficult to step back and make a more rational choice. Because downsizing or choosing a cheaper alternative can feel like a step backward, even if it's actually a smarter financial move. And this is exactly what the industry relies on, because dealerships and manufacturers don't focus on total ownership costs or long-term financial impact. Instead, they center the entire buying experience around the monthly payment, adjusting loan terms, adding incentives, and restructuring deals in ways that make even the most expensive vehicles feel just within reach. So the next time you see someone driving a vehicle that seems far beyond what you'd expect, remember that you're not just looking at a car. You're looking at a system in action, one built on extended loans, strategic marketing, and financial trade-offs that many people don't fully realize they're making. And the truth is, they're not necessarily ahead financially. They're just navigating a very expensive arrangement that often comes at the cost of their future. And the real takeaway from all of this is simple but powerful. It's not about what you can afford each month. It's about what that decision is costing you over time. Because the difference between building wealth and slowly losing it often comes down to choices like this. And sometimes the smartest move isn't upgrading your car, but protecting your financial future. So the next time you see that shiny, expensive truck on the road, don't feel like you're falling behind because, if anything, you might already be ahead. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this.